You ever have one of those plans? You know, the kind that's so perfectly researched, so buttoned up that you just think, there's no way this can fail. Well, today we're going to break down the story of a high-stakes trading system that had that exact feeling, right before the whole thing blew up in its face. All right, let's get into it.
So, this was the final message sent out on a Saturday night back in September 2025. This trading system, it's called Alpha Core, had spent a solid 40 hours crunching all the weekend data, and every single signal pointed to the exact same thing. A huge market crash was coming on Monday. They were absolutely certain. But then Monday morning rolls around, and that perfect, bulletproof plan? Yeah, it was instantly vaporized. The market wasn't just doing its own thing. It was doing the complete and total opposite of what was predicted.
Okay, so the system had predicted what's called a gap down. It expected key assets like the SPY and Tesla to open way lower. But the pre-market data? It was screaming gap up. Everything was surging. The entire idea was dead on arrival, before the opening bell even had a chance to ring.
So this is the real question, isn't it? What do you do in that moment? Do you freak out? Do you double down on your original plan just hoping that you're right and the entire market is wrong? Or do you trust the part of your system that was built for this exact kind of disaster?
To really get why this was such a massive shock, we gotta rewind a bit. Let's go back to Friday and see why Alpha Core was so incredibly confident that a crash was coming. This wasn't just a gut feeling, it was built on 4 solid pillars of data. This right here was the smoking gun. Some obscure VIX call option exploded by nearly 32,000% overnight. Now that is not just random market noise. That is a giant flare in the sky that someone with incredibly deep pockets is making a massive bet on a huge market event. And for anyone who doesn't know, the VIX is basically Wall Street's fear index. When it goes way up, it means fear is flooding the market. And historically, that's a pretty good sign that stocks are about to head down. So a gain like that, that's a huge red flag.
So you've got this checklist, right? Bitcoin is looking weak all weekend. Check. SPY and Tesla are both trending down in after-hours trading. Check and check. And then on top of all that, the VIX options are basically screaming fire. All 4 pillars were pointing in the exact same direction, down. The plan looked foolproof.
This whole thing is the secret sauce for Alpha Core. They call it the weekend edge. By watching the markets for 40+ hours, when pretty much everyone else is logged off, it gets this huge information advantage. And they expect that advantage to pay off like 3 to 5 times over. But, and this is the most important part of the story, the system wasn't just designed to be right, it was actually built to survive being catastrophically, spectacularly wrong. It had pre-planned, absolutely non-negotiable rules for when everything falls apart. These are the hard-coded kill switches. Just look at that top one. If the SPY surges past a certain price and the fear index drops, the command isn't let's wait and see. It's exit all positions. No debate, no second guessing. The system also had a plan for the weakest link in the whole chain, the human operator. It included these discipline mantras, things designed to just override your emotions. You know, for when your ego is screaming, I'm right, the market's wrong, these rules are there to force your hand and basically save you from yourself. And it gets even more detailed. The protocol literally mapped out the emotional roller coaster the operator was expected to go on, minute by minute. An adrenaline spike right at the open, then FOMO, then fear, then greed, and finally just pure exhaustion. It's like they were planning for the human condition itself. Okay, so let's get back to Monday morning. The perfect plan is in absolute tatters. The operator now has a choice: stick with his ego and the plan he believed in, or follow the system's emergency rules. This was it. This was the moment of truth. And this was the trigger. The big red flashing light, a correlation breakdown. The system's whole thesis was based on these different assets moving down together. But when Bitcoin, SPY, and Tesla all started rising in the pre-market, it was an undeniable signal that the fundamental logic was completely broken. And so the pivot was just immediate and total. The old plan to buy puts, which is a bet that the market's going to crash, was instantly thrown in the trash. It was replaced with a brand new plan to buy calls, a bet that the market's going to surge, a complete 180-degree turn. And just like that, the system spat out a whole new attack plan. Instead of betting against SPY and Tesla, it was now targeting breakouts to the upside. And instead of betting on fear rising with those VIX calls, It was now betting on fear fading with VIX puts.
So, what happened? What was the result of this incredibly dramatic, high-stakes pivot? Did throwing out the perfect plan lead to a total disaster? Or did something else happen entirely?
This really says it all. This is the entire lesson in just 3 words: system over ego. The operator's personal belief, his ego, was tied to that bearish crash plan. But the system's rules, they don't have feelings. They're absolute. And in the end, the system won.
And here's the punchline. Following that completely inverted, brand new bullish plan, well, it didn't just prevent a catastrophic loss. It actually resulted in a total realized profit of $56 for the day. It turned a certain failure into a measurable success. In fact, get this. All 4 of the trades they executed under that new, adaptive bullish plan were profitable. A 100% win rate, literally born from the ashes of a completely wrong prediction. That right there is the power of a system that's built to adapt.
And this is the most important thing to take away from all of this. That weekend edge strategy, it worked. It was absolutely right that a huge volatile event was coming. That VIX data proved it. But its real strength wasn't in predicting the direction. It was in having the rules that allowed it to pivot the second the actual direction became clear.
Which kind of leaves us with this final thought, doesn't it? We all try so hard to make the perfect, unbreakable plan. But maybe, in a world that's as complex and unpredictable as ours, maybe the best plan isn't the perfect one. Maybe it's the one that knows it's flawed and has the discipline to change in a split second.